National Federation of the Blind, document accessibility, Word, Google Docs, and PDF, Boutique, in collaboration with the Maryland Department of Disabilities.
Great. Thank you, Anil. And hi, everyone. You are in the right place for document accessibility, our document accessibility boutique. We're going to be going over Word, Google Docs, and a little bit about PDF, but mostly, the kind of overarching rules and guidelines that you kind of have to follow in order to create accessible documents. But before we get into that, a few housekeeping things. My name's Kennedy. I'm an Access Tech Specialist here at the National Federation of the Blind. I'm on our CENA team, the Center of Excellence in Non-Visual Accessibility. With me today, who's going to be talking about Google Docs, is Carl Belanger. Carl, do you want to do a quick intro?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Carl Belanger. I'm a non-visual accessibility analyst here on the CENA team with Kennedy. As he said, I'll be talking about some Google Docs later, and happy to be here and glad you're all here.
I'm going to be pretty much basing this entire presentation off of a document that I created, just a quick demo document, a quick tour of Baltimore, Maryland. It's the same document I sent you guys. There's an inaccessible version, an accessible version, and then a PDF that should be accessible. I'm going to go through and kind of outline how I created this, and then that should outline kind of the rules and guidelines for creating accessible documents. So let's just jump right in. If you can see the screen, I have a quick tour of Baltimore, Maryland up. Let me just quickly describe it. So I have a title, Quick Tour of Baltimore, Maryland. And then I have some subsections. So I have an introduction section with a quick intro. I have a where to visit section. And then in that section, I have different locations around Baltimore. I have a where to eat section. And in there, I have a few, different places to eat. And then I have a quote unquote table at the end. This is the inaccessible version, so it's not a real table. So the first part of creating accessible documents that you should know is heading structure and using correct heading structure. So headings give screen reader users and blind users who use screen access software the ability to navigate by those headings. I'll turn on a screen reader here in a second and let you hear what I'm talking about, because if you don't have any experience with screen readers, then it might be a little confusing at first if you don't know what they are. So I'll turn one on here in a second and show you what that sounds like. But like I was saying, correct heading structure and levels are very important to the navigation of your document. So something that's important that I see a lot of the time when I'm looking at documents, in my work, I see a lot of different documents at different stages of accessibility, completely inaccessible to, the most accessible things, and a lot of in between. So I've seen a lot of different things. One of the biggest things I see, especially when it comes to headings, is just using larger text and then bolding the text if you want to have kind of that subsection heading. So this is the inaccessible version. I'm going to select this first title. So for our headings, the pane that we're going to be looking into and the tool that we'll be using is this styles pane. So in the top row of Word, you have this is the home. It's the ribbon. In the home section of your ribbon, you have where you can select your text size and your font, bulleted lists, all this sort of stuff. And then you have your font, paragraph, and then you have a styles pane. So in this styles pane, you can select different heading levels. So for titles and the titles of documents, it's always going to be heading level 1. So we'll talk about headings right now, and kind of how the nesting works. So the titles of your document, the title of your document, usually it's only one title. Sometimes if you have a document, but it's kind of in very separate sections, but it's still one document, maybe you'll have two titles and two heading level ones. Most of the time, you just have one heading level one. So the title of your document is going to be a heading level one. And then each subsequent heading of that heading level one is going to be heading level two. So most of the headings in your document are going to be heading level two. And subsequent subheadings of the heading level two will be heading level three. Subsequent subheadings of three will be four, so on and so forth. So this first title, or the title of the document is always going to be, I don't want to say always because you don't want to say always in tech and accessibility, but most of the time it's going to be your heading level one. So there are a couple different ways to change it to heading level one. If you already have text in there, you can either select it, highlight it with your mouse, or select it with your keyboard. You can also just have the cursor at the start of the sentence or the line of text that you want to make a heading. If you don't already have the text, you don't already have to have the text in there. I already have it. So I'm going to go ahead and select this text that I want to make a heading level one. I'm going to go up to the styles pane. I'll show you a keyboard shortcut in a second, but I'm just going to use the mouse for now. And you select heading level one in the styles pane. So Word has a preset look to each of their styles. You can edit each style. If you don't like this, it's kind of a light blue color. It's Calibri Light is the font, and it's size 16. You can change the look of these headings if you want. Personally, I like the look of the headings, but you can change that. If you're not using the mouse, the keyboard shortcut is Control Alt and then the number heading level. So if it's heading level one, it's going to be Control Alt 1. Control Alt 1. That's how you change the heading level to heading level 1. If it was heading level 2, you guessed it, Control Alt 2. If you don't remember that, let me go back to normal. Something else I should mention. You have a normal style that is just normal text. And from what I could find, there's no keyboard shortcut for the normal text. You just have to select it either with your mouse, or you can navigate to the styles pane. I'm going to turn on a screen reader here and let you hear what that sounds like.
A quick tour of Baltimore Inaccessible, Word, Doc.
Okay. So I have my screen reader on right now, and I have the focus on this first line. The cursor is on this first line.
A quick tour of Baltimore, Maryland, D.
So I could put my cursor at the front of it and do Control Alt.
Heading 1 style, outline level 1.
So now you heard it say heading style 1 when I changed that. You could also do
ribbon tabs tab control
H L.
Normal not selected, normal
1. That's using Alt and then H and then L is another way to do it. That Alt brings up, if you
styles
just see
menu.
The screen, it brought up all the different letters, all the different shortcut letters that you can use after you press Alt. So now I'm in this styles pane.
Normal, no spacing, heading 1 3 of 18, heading 2 not selected, heading 2 4, heading 3 not selected.
And I can go through and select the heading if I want. I'm going to turn off my screen reader.
Exit NVDA dialog.
Okay, so this just gives the screen reader user, now when they get to this title, it says a quick tour of Baltimore, Maryland, heading level 1. I'll turn on the screen reader and navigate through an accessible version here in a second. Okay, so now we have introduction, which is a subheading of a quick tour of Baltimore, Maryland, which is a heading level 1. Do we have any guesses as to what introduction heading level would be? Control Shift N, is that what it is, Patty? I'll have to change. I'll have to try that. Thanks. H2, yep. So, yeah, great job, everyone. So, yes, because it's a subheading of heading level 1, it's going to be H2. So, again, you can either use your mouse, go up to the styles pane, select it, do Alt H and then L to get to the styles, or you can just do Control Alt 2, which is my favorite way to do it. So now introduction is a subheading of a quick tour of Baltimore, Maryland. So that is correct. Yeah, let me try that, Patty. No. Control Alt N.
A quick tour of
well, that turns on NVDA. So
exit.
No, I have to find out what the shortcut for making normal text is, Patty. Okay, let's just go back to normal. All right, so because that's normal text, that, you know, the text doesn't serve any function other than being text, then you can just make the text normal. Okay, so we have where to visit, which is a sub heading of Quick Tour Baltimore, Maryland. If you have any question whether it's part of the introduction or another subheading, just think if it's, you know, if it would be within introduction. So if we had, I don't know, like a table of contents, or I'm not sure else what would go in the introduction section, but a table of contents would be good. And you have a table of contents heading, maybe that would be H2 because it's under introduction. But I'm going to make, I mean, maybe that would be H3 because it's under introduction. But because of where to visit is just another main heading of the document, it's going to be H2. So I'm going to do Control Alt 2. So now it's an H2. Okay, the National Federation of the Blind headquarters, a subheading of H2. What do we think the National Federation of the Blind headquarters heading would be, if it is a heading, which in this case it is? Yep, great job, everyone. So yeah, it's H3 because it is a subheading of an H2. So Control Alt 3. Okay, so let's take a quick break from headings and talk about alternative text, or alt text. I'm going to bring up a WebAIM page on this, and I'm actually going to put this in the chat as well. I should have included this link in the resources I sent you guys. But how I got this was just WebAIM alternative text you can Google. And I can also email it out to everybody after this. So alternative text is basically, it's a short description of whatever image you have in your document. And alt text is only for screen reader users. So this isn't something that you should plan on anybody having access to without a screen reader. So it's alternative text is just for screen reader users. And like I said, it just gives a short description of what this image is trying to convey. I have a few examples I'll get into, but WebAIM has a great website that they update pretty often about alt text and different strategies to use alt text. So I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. So I'm just going to go ahead and use the WebAIM page and kind of walk you guys through it. So before we get into it, there are a few things that you want to keep in mind. So you don't want to have a long, 2 to 3 sentence, or maybe 2 to 3 sentences is good. It depends on what it is. Most of the time, it's just like a 1 sentence description. So you don't want to be too long-winded because there's no way to skip around. Once you're reading the alt text, you either have to read everything or you have to skip it with a screen reader. There's no way to actually navigate within that alt text. So you want to make it so it's as clear and, pretty much as short as possible. You don't want to be as indescriptive as possible because you're trying to cut down on the word count. But you also want to keep in mind that we're trying to make this as efficient as possible for, a screen reader user that's using your document. And part of that is not having a very long alt text that they have to listen to the whole thing and then they have to move on. So something to keep in mind. Something else to keep in mind is the context in what you're trying to convey. So alt text is all about context and, like I said, what you're trying to convey in your document. We'll get into a few examples here on this webpage, but sometimes it's appropriate to have to either in Word, it's called marking it as decorative. If you're coding something on HTML, it's having an empty alt attribute. We'll just say marking as decorative for today because that's what it's actually called in Word. But pretty much it's making it so the screen reader completely skips over the graphic and you don't hear what's there. If you don't have any alt text on your image, then when it gets to the graphic, it'll either read the file name or it'll just read image or graphic and not have any description. So that's why alt text is important. So why don't I go ahead and just read? I won't read, word for word, but I'll kind of skim through this. So alternative text is a textual substitute for non-text content in web pages. This article is focused on images, but its principles also apply to multimedia. Alt text serves several functions. Screen readers announce alternative text in place of images, helping users with visual or certain cognitive disabilities perceive the content and function of the images. If the image fails to load or the user has blocked images, the browser will present the alternative text visually in place of the image. I actually didn't know that. Search engines use, I didn't know this, search engines use alternative text and factor it into the assessment of their page purpose and content. So we're mostly worried about the first one, screen reader users. That's interesting. I didn't know it displayed it if it failed to load it. I don't know how many times you're failing to load images nowadays, but I don't know. Okay, although technology is getting better at recognizing what an image depicts, algorithms alone cannot understand what the image means within the context of the overall page. So that's very important, and that's why AI is getting a little bit better for describing images. But where AI falls short is coming up with the context or realizing what the context of the image is that you're trying to have in your document and why you even have the image in your document. And so it doesn't do that great of a job at describing things yet. So we usually say don't rely on AI to do your alt text quite yet. It's also not the most complicated thing in the world. Something that Carl actually came up with was, imagine you're trying to describe the image to somebody over the phone. So if you're talking over the phone and you're looking at an image, what would you say to them? So that's something else you can use. So continuing with this, the means within the context of the overall page. A maple leaf might represent Canada, or it might just illustrate the leaf of a tree. Web page authors must provide alternative text that represents the content and function of their images, and document authors too. A lot of this is web accessibility in mind, WebAIM, that's what WebAIM stands for. But these principles apply to documents as well. Okay, so context is everything. So consider this image of Ellen Ochoa. This image, and then it's an image of Ellen Ochoa. It's her astronaut portrait. So here's example one. So it has the image of the astronaut, and then beneath it, it has a little bit of a description. So as the first Hispanic woman to go to space, and later the first Hispanic director of the Johnson Space Center, Ellen Ochoa is widely regarded as a role model. So what would you choose as alt text for the image in example one? I'll read through this first one. So this first option, astronaut Ellen Ochoa, image of Ellen Ochoa, astronaut. Ellen Ochoa, the first Hispanic woman to go into space, or an empty alt attribute, or marking it as decorative if we're talking about Word. So first, consider its content and function. An image only has a function if it's linked. We don't have to think about that. So in this case, the image does not have a function. In the example above, the image content informs the user that this is Ellen Ochoa. Her mode of dress further conveys that she is an astronaut, which is meaningful given her achievements. Based on this, we recommend astronaut Ellen Ochoa to be the alt text. Here's some more rules, and we'll get back to our document here in a second. The alt attribute should typically be accurate and equivalent in representing content and function. That's really important, being accurate and equivalent. Be succinct. Content, if any, and function, if any, should be presented as succinctly as possible without sacrificing accuracy. Typically, only a few words are necessary, though rarely a short sentence or two may be appropriate. Don't be redundant or provide the same information as text near the image. So somebody might be tempted to have this entire description that's underneath the picture as the alt text, as the first Hispanic woman to go to space, and later, blah, 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 that whole description. But that would be redundant and not needed, because the screen reader user is going to read the text next after they get to the image. So you just don't want to put the same information twice if you can avoid it. And you never want to have phrases like image of or graphic of, because screen readers already announce graphic and then they read the text. So you don't want graphic image of blah 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 or graphic of. You just want to get into your description right away. Okay, let's go back to our document. Okay, so let me see here. Okay, cool. I don't have alt text here yet. So why don't you guys try and create some alt text for this image? I see we have some chats. I'll get to that here in a second. So the image is the NFB headquarters, the Jernigan Institute. From it's in the summer. It looks like a sunny day. It's the front of our building, and there is a car in front of it. So what would be some good alt text for this image? Make it a little bit bigger. Okay, front view of Jernigan Institute, NFB. NFB HQ in Baltimore. Yep, I like that first one, front view of Jernigan Institute, NFB. Front exterior view of the Baltimore NFB building. Yep. Do you have one more? Yeah, so we would probably want to avoid just straight up the National Federation of the Blind headquarters, because it is a heading right before it. I liked all of these. So we have front view of Jernigan Institute, NFB, NFB HQ in Baltimore, front exterior view of the Baltimore NFB building, new NFB location or null. So yeah, we'll avoid null. National Federation of the Blind, Jernigan Institute, street view of building. I really like that one. I think I might use that one. Street view of Baltimore NFB building. Front facade of NFB brick building with 4 floors. Sure. Yeah, I like all of these. Okay. Yeah. Hi, Jen. So how we actually get to this alt text is I'm using a mouse. I'll show you how to do it without a mouse here in a second. So you want to select the image, and then you right click on the image. I'm in Word 365, so I don't even know what they call it anymore, so don't quote me. But I'm in the most recent version of Word. You can still add alt text in older versions of Word, but you just get to that by going to Properties. You go to Format Picture, and then the Properties here. That's where it is in the older version of Word, just in case anybody's on the older version. But in the newer versions, you just right click and then do View Alt Text. And it's right there. So I'm using somebody's. And I'm also going to add on a sunny day. So National Federation of the Blind, street view of building on a sunny day. And you could also add from the front, whatever you want to add. Just remember, people have to hear this whole thing if they're using screen access software. So you don't want to get, too crazy. There's a car in front, there are 2 trees, there's a bush, it's made out of brick, there's 4 floors, you don't want to get that into it. If you really have, that much description about the image, you probably just want to put it in a description underneath the image, or in the title or something. And you want everybody to have that information, not just people that are using screen access software. So if you're not using your mouse, let me go ahead and turn on a screen reader.
A quick tour of Baltimore Inaccessible.
Okay, so you want to focus. You want to focus on the picture.
Document blank. Graphic selected National Federation.
And that's what it's going to read, but I'll show you that here in a second. So to simulate a right click with a screen reader, it's Shift F10. So you want to do the function key and then Shift F10.
Cut, remove the selection and put.
And then cut the first thing on this context menu.
Copy, put a copy.
And then View Alt Text is the third thing down from the bottom.
Paste option, edit picture, change picture, bring to, send to back, link split button, save as picture, insert caption, wrap text in.
And like I was saying, if you have like a long alt text or you have more description that you want to put and describe this picture more, you can always have a caption as well. And the caption's accessible and people are able to get to that.
Wrap text collapsed, view alt text.
Okay, so now we have view alt text.
View alt text. Show the automatic image description task pane to create text descriptions of objects for screen readers. A 1 of 4.
Okay, so we're going to press enter on this.
A quick tour of Baltimore generate description edit multi-line.
And this is where you have the description.
Blank, National.
And then it's already written in here.
National view of building on a National Federation of the Blind Street, view of building on a sunny day.
Okay, so that's how you do alt text.
Exit NVDA.
There's a button underneath this box where you have your alt text and where you type it in. Generate alt text for me. This is kind of where the AI comes in, and you usually want to avoid it if possible. Let's just go ahead and do generate alt text for me and see what happens for this image. Okay, yeah, it came up with a building with a flag on the side. So it's not the best description, obviously, and we usually want to do it ourselves at this point. Okay. Great. All right, so let's kind of quickly go through the rest of this. So we have some normal text underneath this picture, so it's just going to be normal. Then we have Baltimore Aquarium. Baltimore Aquarium is a subheading of where to visit, so it's going to be Control-Alt-3. It's going to be heading level 3 because it's a subheading of heading level 2, where to visit. And then we have some more text. We won't do the alt text for this. I'll just show you what the alt text is here in a second. But it's an image of the Baltimore Aquarium from the water in the evening time some of the lights are on that you can see in the middle through the windows. Okay, then we have another short description of the Baltimore Aquarium. Then we have a where to eat. Does anybody want to guess where to eat? Yes, thanks, Maddie. Yep, great job, everyone. You're paying attention. So heading level 2, so Control Alt 2, because it's just a subheading of the title. With you can think of it as a subheading, but it's not really. It's a main heading, but technically, yes, it is a subheading of heading level 1, so it's going to be heading level 2. Then we have Phillips Seafood, a subheading of 2, going to be subheading of level 3. Okay, so this is the end of the accessible, or the inaccessible version. Let me bring up the accessible version and show you what that looks like finalized. So we have the headings in here. And then before I turn on the screen reader, let me show you the table. So when we're talking about tables in Word, usually when you say tables, some people cringe and think, they're more complicated than they need to be. They're really not as complicated if you make them in Word correctly and then save them as a PDF. You really hear the horror stories about big PDF tables, and I'm sure you guys in your experience have dealt with really big tables that you had to make accessible. They're much easier to make accessible if you do it right in Word first. That's something that I'm going to be driving home a lot today, especially when we get to PDFs. If you make all of these changes and improvements and having headings and alt text and then defining your header rows, which I'll tell you about here in a second for your tables, then you're going to be 90% accessible when you save as a PDF. So instead of, if you have, for example, a big backlog of inaccessible documents that you need to make accessible, it's much easier to go through from a Word document and make all the changes in Word and then save it as a PDF. So just a little tip there. Okay, so for tables, I already created this table using the table creation tool. How you do that is you go to Insert, and you can do this all without a mouse. I'm just using a mouse right now. But you go to the Insert tab, which is right next to the Home tab, and then there's a Tables pane, and then Add a Table. And then you can select, it starts by one and goes as big as you go, but the table in this original window is just 7 by 6. So if you just want a 3 by 3 table, which is what I have, you select it there. You can also insert different types of tables. You can draw a table, and then there are also these quick tables that they're kind of pre-made tables. So like calendars, for example, with subheadings. But we're just going to use just the basic table creator. I already did that. This is a 3 by 3 table. So I'm just going to use the one I already created here. And so this is just a best food items table. So we have restaurant, we have the restaurant column, the item column, and then the price column. So once you create your table, this is very simple, I know, but it's the same for complicated tables. So once you select it, or once you have it focused using a screen reader, you go to, now you have 2 new tabs that have popped up in Word in this top row of menu items. You have table design and table layout. Table design kind of lets you change the visual elements to your table. So if you want it to be a different color or kind of a different style, this one has kind of a highlighted background row. This one has a defined header, and it also bolds the text, things like that. We're just going to keep it simple for now. This is the table design. What we're interested in for accessibility is the table layout section. And all you have to do in order to get the columns to be read when you're moving through on a screen reader, which is the important part, I'll talk about that in a second, is repeat header rows. So repeat header rows is in this data section. In table layout, again, you have to focus on the table in order to see these new tabs. Then table layout, and then repeat header rows. So now the restaurant, item, and price column headers will be repeated to me as I'm navigating through this table. I'll show you here in a second. So the reason tables are inaccessible when you don't do this is when you're navigating through the table and you're just hearing the data cells, you don't know which column those data cells are in, and you don't know the relationship they have. The whole point of a table is to have columns that with data that have all the same attribute. In this case, it's in the item column, these are all items. In the price column, these are all prices. And it might be obvious for this really simple table, but as everybody knows, most tables are not this simple. So as you're going through, it will read column number 2, item, crab cake sandwich. Column number 2, item, lobster roll. Price, column 3, $15. Price, column 3, $20. As you're going through, so you know which column it's in. That's the whole point of a table, obviously, is to organize them into these column headers. So it's kind of pointless if you don't have these defined. And how you do that, again, is in this table layout ribbon, and then repeat header rows. Okay, I know I threw a lot at you guys. Why don't I go ahead and look at the chat, and then I'll show you what it reads like with a screen reader and what that sounds like. Okay, where do we go to define what each heading level looks like? For example, if we want to make H1s even larger, Chris. Okay, Chris, so you go to, in this styles pane, if you expand the styles pane using the button right here, I think it might just be called styles. You go to create a style. And then you name it whatever you want. And then modify. This is where you can create your own, or you can modify the style as well. So all I did was select it. And then I click it's just called styles again. The Alt Control Shift S, that's how you get to it with just a keyboard. And then you go to options. Let me see. And then you can create a new style here. And then this is where you can select the different, what it looks like. So this is the font, then this is the font color too. So that's how you change what it looks like. Do we turn off heading level 2 before typing a paragraph of info below it? Yes, so you don't actually have to turn it off, Amy. Once you go to a new line, then normal text is the default. So normal is always the default, and you don't have to deselect it in order. So, if we have that, but then we go to a new line, it's just normal. Hotkey to add/edit alt text is, thank you, Maddie. Yep, select image and then Shift F10. So you can either get to the graphic using G, or just using your arrow keys. Make sure that you're focused on it, then Shift F10 to simulate a right click. And then edit alt text is at the bottom of that context menu. Shelley, for anybody who creates long documents, the Access Board released new testing baseline for documents. Okay, great, thank you. I see a lot of people using tables to organize large amounts of text rather than actual data. Would you recommend not doing that? Yeah, so you can use tables in a lot of different ways. I don't know if I'd recommend against doing it. I mean, I think, Alice, if you do it the right way, it can be okay. But I don't know. It doesn't sound like the right way to me, but I've seen it done correctly. So I don't know if I want to recommend against not doing that. But just to simplify things, if it is normal text, it should usually just be normal text as defined as normal text outside of a table. But I've seen it done well too. So I'm not really sure if I want to recommend against it, Alice. Is all of this info transferable to Google Docs? Carl will be going over Google Docs here in a second. So he can, but yes, he'll go over it in more detail, but yes. Jen, yep. So can you go over again how to repeat row headers in a table? So once you have it selected, Jen, so if I don't have it selected, then it's those two new tabs aren't going to show up, Jen. So you have to select it just using your mouse. Just click the table and then go to table layout. And then repeat header rows is the second option from the left in this last data pane. Usually it's not checked. It's just like a checkbox. Now it is checked.
I did want to comment briefly on the organizing text with tables thing. Generally, what I always recommend is if the data benefits or the text benefits from that tabular structure and has definitive headers and things like that, and the data works in a table, then go for it. If the purpose is purely for presenting a layout of text or grid that serves no other function other than visual to make text look like a grid, no, do not use a table is what I would generally recommend. So, all right, let me get the screen share going. So I'll be showing off Google Docs. Now, I am blind and do use a screen reader, so I will be talking about things more from the keyboard, but these are all doable via the mouse to the various menus and things. All right, so now in Google Docs, just as in Word, we have the inaccessible version of the document.
Blank. A quick tour of Baltimore, Maryland.
And my screen reader reads it, but it doesn't say that this is a heading. And if I use my screen reader's shortcut to get the style,
Calibri 22 pints black on white bold line left.
It's a 22-point font. So chances are this is a heading. As in Word, I can use Control-Alt-1.
Heading 1 style applied.
Heading 1 style applied. And if I down and up arrow.
Blank. Heading level 1 a quick tour of Baltimore, Maryland.
Now that's a heading level 1.
Blank. Blank. Introduction.
Introduction, we know, is going to be a heading level 2. In Google Docs, level 2 headings are in the Format menu.
Format submenu 5 of 9. Text as filled right point. Paragraph styles P filled right pointing pointer submenu.
And you go to Paragraph Styles.
Borders and shading B. Normal text and filled right pointing pointer submenu.
And it's normal text.
Title
currently.
T filled right pointing. Subtitle S filled right. Heading 1. 1 filled right pointing. Heading 2. 2 filled right pointing pointer submenu. Apply heading 2. A Control plus Alt plus 2 radio menu item not checked.
And I could apply heading 2 in this menu.
Update heading 2 to match you.
If I want my Google Docs heading 2 style to look like whatever this text currently looks like, I can apply it.
Apply heading 2. A Control plus Alt plus 2 radio menu item not checked.
But I just want to apply heading 2.
Heading 2 style applied. Baltimore MD heading level 2 introduction.
And now we have that's a heading 2.
Baltimore Federation of the blank where to visit.
And this I'm going to make a heading 3. I'll just use the keyboard.
Heading 3 style applied. Blank the National Federation of the Blind headquarters. Blank heading level 3 where
heading 2,
heading 2 style applied. Blank the National Federation of
the Blind. We'll make that a heading 3.
Heading 3 style applied. Blank graphic no description available.
All right, now we
Space.
come to our graphic. Now, in Google Docs, if you're using the keyboard, when you're applying a heading or a heading style or otherwise, if you're just on the line you want to apply the style to and you want to apply it to the whole line, that you can just have the cursor on that line and do the command. It'll apply to that entire line. With an image, you actually have to select the image with Shift and the arrow key.
Image selected.
And it says image selected. Now I'll do a Shift F10 to open the
Menu submenu. Cut
the
Control plus
keyboard.
View more action. Cut Control plus Copy paste with Delete crop image. Replace image options. Alt text Control plus Alt plus Y9 of 12.
So we have our alt text option, and it says here you could also do Control Alt Y.
Image options sidebar. Alt text button collapsed. Description edit multi-line blank. Alt text button expanded. Description edit.
And we have a spot for a description, so I'll just type in something like
Description updated alt text. National. Description. Federation. Of. The. Blind. Description National Federation of the Blind H updated alt text.
Now it's announcing that every time I type this, which we probably want to flag for Google.
Description. Headquarters. A. Description. Sunny. Day. Description National Federation of the Blind line feed. Advanced options tab collapse. Image options sidebar. Close button.
And we're done editing the alt text. Can close
Document
this.
region. Blank. Graphic National Federation of the Blind headquarters on a sunny day. Space unselected.
And there we go. We have our description updated.
Graphic National. Blank. Graphic National out of graphic. W.
And
Right. W. Graph. W.
got an extra character there. And so that's how you add an alt text into Google Docs. As it said, I'll demonstrate
Blank.
a little further down.
Be sure to visit NFBHQ on your international heading level 3. Baltimore Aquarium.
And so there's a heading level 3 there, but it's not on the right line for the Baltimore Aquarium.
Heading level 3.
We'll just fix that. We'll go into the Styles menu with Alt-O.
Format submenu. Text as filled right point. Paragraph. Borders. Normal text and fill. Apply normal text to controlled. Normal text. Baltimore. Blank. Baltimore Aquarium.
And then, again, we'll make this a heading level 3.
Heading 3 style. Graphic. No description available.
As it said, I can select this image, again, with Shift and the arrow.
Image selected.
And do a Control-Alt-Y.
Image options sidebar.
And it gets me right into the alt
Description
text
edit. Advanced options tab collapsed.
things. And if I open
Expanded. Title edit blank. Image options sidebar. Advanced option collapsed.
this, the advanced options section just gives me access to a title as well. Google Docs does not have any sort of image description generation tool. So you will just need to type in your alt text for this thing, for whatever your image is. As Kennedy described in Word, same rules apply. Don't use image of. Wherever you're creating alt text, these rules apply. Don't use image of. Be concise but descriptive, and conveying context of what's important about the building in relation to the actual document.
Description edit multi-line blank. Baltimore. Aquarium. At. Night. Description Baltimore.
Right.
Description
And then-
advanced title. Image options sidebar.
That's added, so I'll just tab over to close.
Close button. Document region.
And there we go.
The Baltimore Aquarium is one graphic Baltimore Aquarium at night. The enough active blank. Where to eat.
I'll put this as a heading level 2,
Heading 2 style of blank. Phillips Seafood.
and that is a heading level
Heading
3.
3 graphic. Be sure to eat at Phillips Seafood in the
I could go through and add alt text to that, but we've already
blank.
done a few of those.
Blank. Graphic. No description available. Entering page 3 of 3.
And so here's where Google Docs, this is an import from Word, and Google Docs didn't import the last part of this document correctly, so we'll just switch over to the accessible version.
A quick tour at Baltimore docket says out of table heading level 3. Heading blank. Zen West is worth the drive north. H. Heading 10th Street. Graphic. Heading level 3 10th Street Oyster. Be sure to eat at Phillips.
And so we have the same headings here of Phillips Seafood,
Heading level 3 10th Street Oyster House.
the 10th Street
Entering
Oyster
page 3
House,
of 3.
and it's announcing these as headings.
Graphic of 10th Street has one of the best. Graphic a busy evening at 10th Street with people eating and talking. 10th Street. Heading level 3 Zen West. Graphic Zen West outside sign on an afternoon in Baltimore. Zen West is worth the drive north of the city. They serve some of the best chicken wings. Blank. Heading level 2 best food items. Heading level 3. Table with 4 rows and 3 columns. Row 1 column 1 restaurant. Row 2 Phillips Seafood.
And so now we have this table. Just as in Word, with Google Docs, you need to go through and do the Google or whatchamacallit. Word calls it to show header rows. Google Docs calls it to just pin the header row. So I'm in the table now. I can use screen reader table
National Federal.
review command.
Baltimore MD has a wide range of table with column 2, column 3 price, row 2 $15, edge of table, column 2 crab cake sandwich, column 1 Phillips seafood, row 3 10th Street oyster house, column 2 lobster roll, column 3 $20, row 4 $12, column 2 chicken wings.
And as I move through the table, you'll hear it doesn't read, the screen reader should be reading the header columns as I go through this table, which is not.
Row 2 crab cake sandwich, row 1.
So I will
row 3 column, row 2, row 1 restaurant.
Go up to the first row of the table and again do a Shift F10.
Menu submenu. Right with Gemini new 1 of 24.
And again, we have a bunch of different options. I will just comment that as since I'm going over the option, it does have Gemini to help with adding content and things like that, similar to Word now has Copilot.
Paste with insert column right 11 of.
There's all these things to insert cells in the table, insert columns.
Delete row 12, delete column, delete table 14 of 24.
Delete the column or row, delete the table entirely.
Pin header row 15 of 24.
And that's what we're looking for, pin header row.
Pinned 1 header row. Blank.
And it says we've pinned 1 header
blank.
row.
Applicate a quick toward Baltimore application. Doc table with 4 row 3 $20. Edge of table item column 2 lobster roll. Restaurant column 1 10th Street oyster house.
And as we can hear now, it says restaurant, column 1 10th Street oyster house.
Item column 2 lobster roll.
Item.
Price column 3 $20.
And price.
Row 4 row 3 $20. Row 2 $15.
Tables should also have a header column. Neither Word nor Google Docs lets you define that. Though if you're building, say, a larger table in a PDF or on a website, you will certainly want to define that column header as well. So that is a brief overview of how to do the same basic tasks in Google Docs. All of them are very doable and can be easily done by either a keyboard user and screen reader user, or just with your mouse through the settings. They're all there and they all perform basically the same as they did in Word. I will open it up we have a few minutes for any questions about Google Docs specifically.
Christian, I didn't see an option for marking an image as decorative in the Google Doc. Are you able to mark images as decorative?
I have not seen one either. I will need to do a little more research on that, and if we find something, we can send it out.
Yeah, I don't think you can. I was doing research, and I've been seeing articles about people asking and then people answering that you're not able to. So maybe that's something we can bring up as well. So yeah, yes. I actually noticed that too. So yes, thanks for bringing that up. What did Alt plus L do?
Alt O in Google Docs brings up the format menu. Alt HL in Word brings up the styles pane.
Yep. Maybe that's what. So you have to do H first and then L. Okay. I have a question about Google Docs. At times, I export documents to TXT format to work on my Braille display and share with my colleague. Every time I go to export, it only says PDF or DocX. Can you please give me a walkthrough of how to export Google Docs to text format? Thanks.
All right. What I will say is if you export to TXT, you lose all the formatting. If your Braille display can support docs, I would strongly recommend it. I'm not even sure if it can export to TXT. Honestly, your best bet might just be to do a select all copy from Google Docs and paste into Notepad. But again, you lose all formatting and all structure the document has. So I would not recommend that if you can work with docs.
What does pinning the row do in the table?
So visually, it makes it so that if you have a larger table, as you scroll down, it will keep that header row visible so you can track what the headers are. For a screen reader, it programmatically identifies those rows as the header so that the screen reader knows that those are the headers for the table.
I have issues with pictures that I copy and paste into a sheet. I have trouble trying to move the images into the right locations that I want it displayed in. How can this work better?
Which program are are you talking with Google Docs or?
I think maybe just generally, placing images, with a screen reader, I'm guessing.
Yeah, placing images with a screen reader is fair, can be tricky because you don't get a good idea of the size or whether it's rotated properly. That I'm not sure of the Google Docs image movement commands off the top of my head, other than just pasting it at a given spot. But either way, you may want to have a sighted person verify that image is placed properly.
Can we type decorative in the alt text to describe that image as decorative? No. So the whole point of marking something as decorative is so that the screen reader doesn't even read the image. So it completely skips over it. So it goes from whatever's before it to whatever's after it, like it's not even there. So no, typing in decorative, it would read image decorative. So Rachel, in both Word and Docs, I know that the heading level 1 is larger than heading level 2 and so on, but what about the actual font style? Is it all the same? Should it be? If so, how do you make them uniform? So usually in my experience, the heading level 1 is a little bit bigger than all the subheadings, and then 2 is bigger than 3. That's just in my experience. Like I was doing before, you can edit in that styles pane. There's a styles button that you can press, and you can edit the size of the font like I did before. If you want to make them all uniform, but in my experience, maybe legal documents actually they're all uniform. But in my experience, they are different sizes. But Rachel, you can change whatever you want with those styles. And feel free to Google too, because there's plenty about changing the way styles look online. With different fonts, I don't know. I think usually we just use Calibri, and then it's just Calibri light and bold. But it might just be up to your organization. In terms of accessibility, there's no difference. You don't want to have too small of font, and we're not getting into color contrast today, but you also want good color contrast. But in terms of different fonts, I don't think there are any difference.
Yeah, the big reason to use the heading styles is because that's how a screen reader can't look at the font color, size, etc. of a font and say, kind of intuit that person meant that as a heading. So using the heading style tells Word and also the screen reader, hey, this is a heading 1, this is a heading 2. As far as the look of it goes, yeah, I agree with Kennedy. Just as long as it meets color contrast recommendations for low vision users, and as long as it's, I'd probably recommend keeping it consistent with the font in your document. But otherwise, it's, do visually whatever you want with it.
Okay, so file, save as Adobe PDF, and then this is what the accessibility checker looks like. Accessibility assistant. It shows up on the right side here, and you can go through and do it all at once. Okay, so I have the PDF open here, and you need, like I was saying, you need Adobe Acrobat Pro. The way you get the accessibility is in this right row of menu items. If it isn't in your right row of tools, then you can do more tools and then add whatever tools you want, and accessibility is one of these tools. So before I get too deep into this, I'm really not going to get deep into PDFs. We've had trainings in the past about PDFs, and we're probably going to do more in the future. PDFs and PDF remediation is a whole topic on its own. So I don't really have time to get into it, and that wasn't really the purpose of the presentation. I just want to show you guys what the PDF looks like and just a quick intro to the tag tree and what tags are. But we're not going to get too deep into that. So if you would like more PDF training, please put that on the survey and fill that in. You can also email us or call our tech line, and we can kind of point you in the right direction. But again, it's just a little bit too much to get into right now, and I just wanted to introduce everybody to it. And again, the most important part is saving as a PDF. Okay, so pretty much tags in PDFs are invisible markers that tell the screen reader what each element is. So for example, we have heading tags for headings. We have paragraph tags for normal text. We have figure tags for figures or graphics. And as you go through, you tag these things, and then that's how the screen reader knows what's on the PDF. If you open a PDF and with a screen reader and it asks you to auto tag the document, then that means there are no tags in the document, just so you know. There will automatically be tags in the document if you save it as a PDF. So you don't have to go through and from square one and add all these tags. You mostly get everything when you save it as a PDF. So that's why it's so important to, if you can, start in Word and then save as a PDF. Okay, so also, I want to mention, this is a very inaccessible process because you need the mouse to select the text that's on the page. So right now, the middle of the page is the document. And then to the left of it is going to be the tag tree. I'll open it up here in a second. To the right are all the tools. There's no way to select the text just using the keyboard. So I'll just start off with that square one. It's a very inaccessible process, unfortunately. Okay, so in your right row of tools, you have this accessibility menu. You want to open that, and then you see all of these different options. Auto tag the document, I already talked a little bit about that. You shouldn't have to do that if you already saved it as a PDF from Word. Reading options, accessibility check, accessibility report, identify form fields, set alternate text, setup assistant, and reading order. The one that we're interested in right now is reading order. So now we have this reading order panel that pops up. If you do show order panel, now you see the different tags on your document. So we can either do show page content order or structure types. So content order is the order in which the screen reader reads the content. So it resets every page. So on this first page, you have 1 through 7. It goes through, each different element on the page. And then when you get to the second page, it restarts. So you can either do content order or structure type. So we have H1, it's our heading level 1. Then we have our H2, which is our introduction. Then we have our P tag, which is just a paragraph tag. So if this wasn't already tagged, how I did that was I just deleted the tag from the tag tree, used my mouse to select the heading, and then in my reading order pane, you can select, once you select something with your mouse, you can do heading level 3, for example, because it was a heading level 3. So that's just really quick, and I know I'm going through this really quickly, but again, it's a little bit too deep to get into, just a few minutes. So if you're looking for more training, please reach out and we can point you in the right direction. Then we also have a figure tag, and you can change the alt text of this figure. P tag, just normal text. H3, another figure tag. These are all the same going through here. Then we have a table here, like we heard before. We also have an empty tag as well. So if you go through on the left side of the screen is your tag tree. It goes through each tag, and you can see what each tag is labeled as. So, for example, the first tag on this last page is Thames Street Oyster House. Then you have an image tag. Then you have the regular text tag, and in that, like I said, it's named that in the tag tree, whatever the description is. So we have some empty tags that we usually want to get rid of. Carl heard it in his Google Doc, there was an empty heading tag. So you usually want to get rid of those. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it just adds something extra that doesn't need to be there. So I'm just selecting it in using my mouse in the tag tree and then pressing delete. Okay. So for time, I'm going to go ahead and turn on my screen reader and just let you hear what what the final product sounds like, and also describe what keys I'm hitting.
Taskbar, a quick tour of Baltimore.
Okay, so just really quickly, I'm using NVDA. This is a free screen reader that anybody can download for Windows computers. You just go to nvaccess.org/download. I can post the link in chat after I'm done speaking here. It's relatively simple. I definitely recommend turning on this visual highlight feature. It shows you visually where it's reading on the screen, so it helps you figure out where the focus is. That's what it's called on a screen reader. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and press the down arrow.
Heading level 1, a quick tour of Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay, so heading level 1, you heard that. So headings are important because if you want to navigate using a screen reader, this is how you do it. So just pressing the H key, I can navigate through each heading.
Introduction, heading level 2, where to visit, heading level 2, the National Federation of the Blind headquarters, heading level 3.
I'm just pressing the H key to go through all these headings. So this is important. If I were just looking for the where to eat heading, then I would just keep clicking until I heard that, and then I'd be in that section.
Page 2, Baltimore, where to eat, heading level 2.
Okay, now I'm in the correct heading. Now I'm just going to press the down arrow to go through each element below it.
Heading level 3, Phillips Seafood, graphic drone shot of Phillips Seafood on the Baltimore Inner Harbor.
So that's what the alt text sounds like.
Be sure to eat at Phillips Seafood in the Inner Harbor. Try some of the freshest seafood in MD. Heading level 3, page 3, Thames Street Oyster House. Graphic Thames Street Oyster House during a busy dinner rush. Thames Street has one of the best lobster rolls in MD, a must-try if visiting Baltimore. Heading level 3, Zen West. Graphic brick Zen West sign from the
Okay, so I'm going to press T to go through tables.
Table with 4 rows and 3 columns. Row 1, column 1, restaurant. Column 2, item. Column 3, price. Row 2, restaurant. Column 1, Phillips Seafood. Item. Column 2, crab cake sandwich. Price. Column 3, $15.
And that's the table. We already kind of went through it.
Exit NV.
You mentioned the screen reader program for Windows PC. Is there a version for Mac users? So Macs come with VoiceOver pre-installed on all Macs. It's the same screen reader that they use on their iPhone. It's a little different. It just behaves a little different, and the keystrokes are a little different than like JAWS or NVDA, these narrators, these Windows screen readers. But yes, VoiceOver is the screen reader for Mac.
Hi, this was super helpful. Thank you very much.
Sure. Yeah.
Would we use the same principles, or at least some of these same principles, like from Word to, like if we were building a website?
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. So That WebAIM website might be interesting for you. That is web accessibility in mind, so they are based, around website accessibility. But yes, all of these same things apply to web design. It just a different kind of way of defining them, obviously. But yes, it's the same principles.
Okay, that's great to know. Thank you.
Excel accessibility is the same. Is it the same as Word accessibility? So I'm not really an expert in Excel accessibility. The biggest thing is you can define the header rows, and then have those header rows read back to you. I think really that's the biggest thing. I know pivot tables are also a thing, and then alt text also for if you have complex graphs, for example, if you're using a lot of data visualization things, you can have a description of that data table in in either a text description, or you can have the data it's itself kind of extrapolated out of the data visualization as well, and have that kind of as an accessible format. But like I said, I'm not super well versed in making Excel documents accessible, but it's a lot of the same principles. Do you utilize additional software in addition to Adobe Acrobat to make accessible PDFs? Yeah, so I just mentioned Common Look. Common Look makes PDF remediation more user-friendly. So it makes it so that you can delete things a little bit easier. You can Control Z and undo things, which you can't do in Adobe. Some more, just user-friendly things. It's a plugin. It's a plugin to Adobe Acrobat. So if you're interested in that, it's called. I think it's still called. Yeah, it's still called Common Look. They were just bought by another company. Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and end it. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
National Federation of the Blind. Live the life you want.